Hey, good morning and happy Sunday. Hey, everybody. Hey, everyone. Got to give the mic a second to click back in onto the compression there. um, Happy Sunday, everybody. Cheers and good March to you. March. We got through March. Hey, had some snowstorms. Had some real tragic stuff happened last night. Some hurricanes through the state or tornadoes through the states. Terrible stuff. Um, Hope everything's going okay with all the families and that, and a lot of hearts go out to people that are dealing with weather. Weather is not a good thing. Um, Cheers. Sunday coffee time, and yeah, it's been a year since Taylor Hawkins left us, and unbelievable, eh? A year. Because I remember, I know it's kind of funny how that time continuum happens. It's a how do you know where you were when you heard the news of a terrible thing, and then a year later comes and it's like, wow, I feel that moved me so much. It feels like that was yesterday, or a few weeks ago, or a month ago. But it hasn't been, and it brings up the question. Foo Fighters are out doing stuff. They're I don't think they've. I'm not sure if they've started playing live. Have they? But there's always that age-old question: how do you replace an iconic member of the band who's passed away? Led Zeppelin didn't. No, they just said that's it. We lost Bonzo, and we can't play without this guy. Even though they had, even though there's his son is the closest thing they can get to replacing that iconic member. But that band was such a as Jimmy Page said it was an organic thing when they played live. Or when they played, probably when they played anywhere in the studio or creating songs, where it was just a process of these guys just working together, and that's how they created, and that's how they played together. If you watch Song Remains the Same, there's a great scene in Song Remains the Same where in Dazed and Confused, where the shot is Bonham and John Paul Jones, and they're looking at each other for the shots, and they're Jimmy Page is off on his own playing something that sounds a lot like which is basically the middle of Achilles' Last Stand, and then they're trying to decide where the shots are, and that's about the organic thing. They're just changing the song as it plays. So they couldn't go on without John Bonham because of that, for that reason, basically. And then you look at AC/DC, who was probably at the peak of their career when Bon Scott, their singer, passed away, and they continued with Brian Johnson, who's brought them to a new level. Back in Black was their biggest album probably ever until that point. Maybe it might have been their biggest album ever. I'm not sure what the sales are on everything, but and then they just took them to another level. Recently ZZ Top lost Dusty Hill and continued. Now these days, I think it might be, for older bands, it might be just something to do with money, because they don't make much more off their back catalog anymore, because of streaming and that kind of thing, and no one really goes in and buys a physical album. Or, well, I'm not saying no one, but people do. That's why we brought vinyl back, and people release new stuff all the time. And Pink Floyd's releasing another thing. It's just how do you do it? How do if you ever watched a movie called Hired Gun, amazing movie if you're a musician, must see. But I've talked about this before. Jason Newsted from Metallica, formerly of Metallica, but he was he was the guy who replaced Cliff Burton at the growing part of their career, and their decision was, this is the we're on a flight, and we have to keep going. So they got Jason to come in and fill in for Cliff, and didn't not well received with the fans. Same thing with Brad Gillis when Randy Rhoads died, and he mentions this in the movie. They have a lot in Brad Gillis and him have a lot in common, where they had these rabid fans that were just shredded because they're one of the members died in their favorite band, and in the case of Randy Rhoads, this new guitar hero passed away tragically, and at a very early age, just like Cliff Burton, and then they were booed and had things thrown at them on stage, and which is a weird thing, but it's just the fans showing their emotions and how hurting they are. But how do you do it? And we thought the Foo Fighters were not going to go on. Grohl, Taylor was much more than a drummer. He was a character. He was a lifeblood. He was an incredible drummer that fueled those songs. And he was also, he used to go up front and sing, and he had his own bands. He had Chevy Metal and all that, and how do you can't replace someone like that. Just like you can't replace Bon Scott, you can't replace John Bonham, you can't replace any of these number of people. Randy Rhoads is not irreplaceable. You just get somebody who can hopefully fill you through and get through, and then you move on with your life and with all the changes that you have to endure. So that's what Dave Grohl's doing, and he's going out and playing. Musicians have to play. It's a fact of life. Musicians have to play. Why do you think Paul McCartney still gets up on stage in his 70s, probably close to 80 now? Why does other than money, but these guys do have, like Rolling Stones have a lot of money, but they still get out there and play, and I think they look at their mortality and then say, hey, let's do one more show, and that kind of thing, right? But yeah, so who's replacing Taylor? This is a big question that happens around our studio and I ask it all the time, and I have two amazing students, Digby and Connor, and Connor teaches for me now too, and he's probably the biggest Foo Fighter fan, and he's got tickets to Ohio to go see them, and he's my I couldn't believe I can't. When I started teaching him, all he played was Foo Fighters. It was incredible. But I always ask him, and he's always got the inside information, and he still doesn't know. And there's they're talking about Matt Cameron from Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, and Matt Cameron's phenomenal, but I think he is still part Pearl Jam for a long time now. But I think it's going to be Josh Freese, who played the entire tribute shows with Foo Fighters and is an incredible drummer. I saw him play with Offspring in this past fall, and I didn't know it was him at first, and then I said, oh God, that's him, because the clearest sound I've ever heard out of a drum set in an arena. Like that was just, these are the guys that put the time into getting that to sound right. I don't think it's all to do with equipment. It has a lot to do with playing. Just like us guitar players who, spend tons of money on gear, and something just doesn't sound right, and sometimes it's 90% of the time it's you, it's you. If your guitar sound doesn't sound right, you probably aren't in the mental frame to play that day, or you have to get yourself into a different mode of thinking, And but Josh, to me, he's the guy. But and him, it's going to be a tough one too. I think it's a little different with that because I think a lot of time has passed. The Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, they replaced the guy right away. We got to get back out there on the road. Let's get out there and do it. A lot of it has to do with the popularity, the rise and fall. Your managers think a different way. They think more of a way of keeping the career going, and that's how they do it. But must be hard. Must be hard for David Grohl to turn around and not see him playing the same songs. That's got to be hard. That's got to be hard, especially when they're good friends too, right? But anyways, good luck to the Foo Fighters. out there on the road. Good luck to any band out there on the road that has to replace someone who's passed away. It's got to be tough. You know, UFO was in the middle of a final tour, and keyboardist Paul Raymond passes away, and they do. And it's funny how life's come full circle. A guy who replaced him in the past comes in. Neil Carter comes in and replaces that person again. So interesting stuff. Cheers all to all our famous heroes. I've talked about a lot of them on this show. Our rock and roll heroes that have passed away, and unfortunately, it's a fact of life. There will be more, and the music will live on forever, and those guys do live on forever, and that's what's great about having a hit song. You're immortal. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're a one-hit wonder, you're immortal. You've as Les Claypool said, if you go fishing for sharks, some of them get to the surface. Some of them you never see. And some of them are kind of floating in the middle. But sometimes they get to the surface. And then some of those artists get to the surface and stay above the surface for their entire lifetime and then beyond. And Taylor Hawkins will do that. Randy Rhoads will do that. Cliff Burton, John Bonham, Bon Scott, and everybody else who you name a few. Neil Peart, Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, it's just something that will just live on forever. Once you're in the recorded music, we live in that, and that when it's always, I always thought that when the married couples say, hey, they're playing our song, that's basically says it right there. It's when it's out in the public and it gets internalized by humans, and we love the song. It's not the artist's song anymore. It's kind of ours, isn't it? Anyways, something to think about. Next Sunday, a week today, we are putting on a amazing benefit in memory of Caleb Letterman, who passed away at this sad age of 18 years old. His family, the Letterman family, are been longtime students of our school and longtime supporters of our school. They live around the corner from us here, and we are doing something. We're putting a scholarship fund together for a musician, and I can't believe the outpouring of people that want to play this show. And we asked a couple, and then all of a sudden the floodgates were in, and we had to close. We had to shut it down because I can only put so many people on in a day. I can't have a second concert the next week, but. And last night I was ripping my hair out, basically trying to put the set list together, and I think I have it together, hopefully. But if you want to come, 154 Pearl Street, Brantford, Ontario. Show is going to start at 11 a.m. It's an all day. You don't think you have to stay from 11 a.m. to 4. It's a lot of time. It's kind of a drop in, come in, see some music, see us play. Inertia will be the final act. Our friend Kristen done a great job helping us promote this. Her and her band will be in. Bridge on Fire will be there. Jacob D'Souza, What's This Button Do, Voodoo Soul, some of the bands that are playing, some of the artists that are playing, Chris Stray, Greg Gingerich, a few others, and we have a huge student showcase of our own Avalon students. Going to be here, some exciting stuff. Anyways, that's next Sunday. You'll see it advertised on our pages. Anyways, have a great one, guys. Enjoy. Rest in peace, Taylor Hawkins. You are amazing. See you later. Bye-bye.